Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Season 2, Episode 1 of Cats and Bolts. 1, 2, 3!
Oh, gracias, Senor Ben. And hola, everybody. Welcome to Florida's favorite hockey show, the Cats and Bolts podcast, broadcasting not live, but live to you from Podcast Junkie Studios in downtown Boca Raton, Florida. I am one half of the program, Rod Peterson. She is the other half of the program, Sarina Taylor. And we're here talking NHL, not just Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning, although that is our specialty, and that's why a lot of you are here. But Sarina, how are you doing?
I'm well. It's been a great summer we had. Everybody's been complaining that it's super hot, but I'm just not feeling it. I like the heat.
I should actually mention that coming up on the program, we've got about 10 viewer questions because I put that out to our wonderful Cats and Bolts viewers on our Instagram story. What questions do you have for the first episode of the program? And so we're going to turn you loose on those, plus a couple of our own coming up over the next 30 minutes or so. But I will, and by the way, Benny Cobbs, Crazy Guy, Joshua, Kim, Stacy, G-Tron, Alec, there are many. Okay, so we'll get to your questions, but when we last left you, actually we did 1 week after the Stanley Cup final. It was 1 week in free agency, so we discussed Steven Stamkos going to the Nashville Predators. We're obviously going to talk about it again. The Panthers winning the Stanley Cup, obviously, coming back and hoping to win or go to the Stanley Cup final for a third straight year. That's where we last left you. Yeah, I guess we should get right down to it, Serena, with the viewer questions. Because, for instance, I guess the biggest news this week is Leon Draisaitl of your Edmonton Oilers signing a 8-year, $112 million contract. Cats fans got familiar with him during the Stanley Cup playoffs, even though he didn't score a goal in the Stanley Cup final. What did you think when you heard this news that he'd signed?
I was relieved. I mean, you have to give a guy like Leon Draisaitl that much money to keep him. I don't understand. The Oilers were trying to already free up some cap space. To me, that's a no-brainer, however much money you have to give a guy like that. He's arguably the second best player in the entire world, one of them. Mm-hmm. And you have to give a guy that money if you want to keep it.
Throughout the course of this season on this show, we're going to talk about these things because I'm not going to argue McDavid and Draisaitl are two of the top 4 players in the National Hockey League, and now 2 of the top 4 highest paid. Will that be enough to get him back to the Stanley Cup final? We'll see. Now, the biggest news in the NHL is the tragic news, Johnny Goodro and Matthew Goodro being killed last Thursday. We're going to talk about that as the program goes along. We're just not going to open up with that. I'm going to go to the viewer questions right now. Benny Cobbs, who's invited me down to watch his special hockey team. They're playing at the War Memorial. Benny, you know that I'm going to come down and watch you because I'm a man of my word. His first question, Serena, is welcome back. And how was the offseason for both of you? So you want to dive into that a little more? The heat didn't bother you, but you did come up to Canada.
I had a nice quiet summer, if you will. Spent a lot of time alone, like we all know. Went up to Canada for 3 weeks. It was so great being up there, just seeing everybody, spending some time up there. I was ready to get back into my routine, but yeah, it was good. We watched a lot of baseball in those 3 weeks. Yes,
as a matter of fact, I went to Canada and broadcasted baseball in the Western Canadian Baseball League. It's a summer collegiate league. So I was there for 3 months, and Serena came up and joined me. She broadcast some of the games with me. We had a wonderful tour out to Alberta. We spent, a little more than a week there. It was fun. She got back a little ahead of me. I came back on Labor Day weekend just a few days ago, ready to start this trail for the National Hockey League covering the Panthers and the Lightning. And I do have some exciting news on that, too, which I will get to. I guess we'll jump right into this because that's what we do, Cats and Bolts. Crazy Guy, 5160, that's his account. He says, do you think both Florida teams will make the playoffs in this 24-25 season? I guess I'll start with you.
I'm going to say yes.
Really?
I know everybody feels like, oh my God, Tampa's going to crumble because they don't have Steve Stamkos. Let's be honest. Tampa played a lot of games over the last 5 years without Steve Stamkos. He was injured a lot, and obviously he's the heart and soul of that team, but they have such a strong team. That's why they've won so many years and been successful. They have a good team, and I said last year, probably in one of these first few episodes, that last year was going to be Tampa's last kick at the can. And I still believe that, and even John Cooper had said, he's like, we're not dead in the water, but I think that, our window of opportunity is kind of closing, just like it does for every team at some point. So I think Tampa's going to make the playoffs. They're strong enough to do it anyway. And, Florida should. There'd be a huge meltdown if they didn't.
The question from Crazy Guy 5160 was, do you think both Florida teams will make the playoffs? And my answer on that is absolutely not. Because I guess I'll mention this. I'll mention it a couple times. I'm writing a column in the South Florida Tribune now on the Panthers and the Lightning. And I've said in there, I don't mind saying it, John Cooper at the end of the season after Game 5 in American Bank Arena when they lost to the Panthers said, Steven Stamkos belongs here, i.e. Tampa. He goes, I can't imagine this will be a long discussion. A couple months later, he's playing for Nashville. That tells me that John Cooper wanted him. The general manager, Julien Brisebois, JBB, as you folks in Tampa call him, didn't really want Steven Stamkos. Right there, that tells me, unless I'm making too much out of this, that it's a little bit of dysfunction there. They're not on the same page.
I wouldn't get super stressed about it. I mean, what's John Cooper going to say? He's going to come out and go, well, we're still in talks. He doesn't have any idea. And even if he did, he's not going to come out and say it.
It's your captain. It's your career leader in games played and points. He's the heart and soul of the organization.
Nobody disagrees with that. But
so he wants him and the GM doesn't. Does that not speak on two people not being on the same page? That's not ideal for a hockey club.
It's not saying the GM didn't want him. We had this discussion. This is a business. That's what people lose sight of. Could the Oilers afford to pay Draisaitl? Yeah, because they made movement before. Did Tampa go out of their way to make movement for Stamkos? No. They were like, well, if it fits in here. So it's not that they didn't want him. Of course, who wouldn't want Steve Stamkos? They just weren't willing to make it work. And that's two different things.
To me, they're not. It's the same thing.
There's a salary cap,
if they wanted Steven Stamkos still there, he'd be. If Julien Brisebois wanted him still there, he'd be there. That's what I think.
If Steve Stamkos wanted to still be there, he would be there. Don't fucking kid yourself. He went for way more money in Nashville, which makes perfect sense. If he really wanted to stay there, he would have stayed.
Is that not? Yeah. It's not exact. It's like what Ryan Smith did with the Oilers. He could have stayed in Edmonton, correct?
No, he was traded.
Go back to the 90s. Why was he traded?
Because his contract wasn't finalized. Stamkos had the opportunity. He became a free agent. Ryan Smith was traded the deadline because his contract wasn't finalized before the end of the year.
Same thing. If Ryan Smith wanted to stay in
It's not the same
Edmonton,
thing.
it's the same concept. He got traded because they couldn't work out a deal.
They weren't supposed to work out a deal till the end of the season. Okay, for all of you who don't know, Ryan Smith was the heart and soul of the Oilers, was traded in, 2007 or something?
It was late 90s, to be honest.
Whatever it was. Whatever. His contract, they were about $250,000 apart. They were supposed to wait until the end of the year like Steve Stamkos' agent did. They did not wait until the end of the year. Instead of waiting until the end of the year, the Oilers traded him. Tampa at least gave Stamkos the courtesy of choosing.
Why didn't Ryan Smith come down $250,000 if he really wanted to stay?
Option.
They could have signed the deal.
What player in the history of the National Hockey League has gone, you know what? I'm in the middle of the season. I'm going to take a pay cut in the middle of the season and decide on my contract right now. Nobody does that. That's what we talked about with Stamkos. They was going to wait till the end of the year.
He didn't want to wait. He wanted to talk about it
before the season.
Right. But you said the agent wanted to wait till the end of the year. No, he didn't. The agent wanted to talk about it going into the year, and the Lightning didn't. So to me, it's the exact same thing.
It's not, but...
Yeah, no, we're obviously... It's the only time we argue is about hockey. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying it far more than we are. So anyways, I say if Steven Stamkos, she says if he wanted to stay, he would have taken far less money. I say it's the same thing as Smith with the Oilers. And I say if the Lightning wanted him, they would have found a way to keep him. That's all. Let's be honest. Did you see his goodbye to Tampa on his social media?
No.
Okay, well, basically, he didn't say it, but it was like his heart got ripped out. I didn't envision this ending this way. So I think that you think they're just going to magically skip over this and like it's not going to be a huge loss. He played 81 games last year. He was a goal a game in the playoffs. I think it's that big of a loss that they missed the playoffs. I guess it's the very long way of answering the question.
They won a lot of games with him not playing. They're a solid team. But again, the playoffs for them are probably going to depend on what the other teams do because there's some strong teams in the division.
Well, I also think too, when you say they won a lot of games without him, They won a Stanley Cup without him in the bubble.
Yep.
But it's different as a guy that's only worked in the business 36 years, and I know you've been around it too. Having the guy around, he's still your captain, being in the room, being the leader, that's all gone. He's the heart and soul. That's all that I'm saying. So I don't think they'll be able to overcome that, but shocking, we don't agree on something. I guess I will stroke off G-Tron's question because he said, will the Tampa Bay Lightning regret letting Stamkos go? You're saying no on that one? I'm saying yes.
Oh,
they
no,
will.
they're going to regret it.
Okay.
Oh, 100% they will.
Yeah. We also had that on our Instagram poll, and about 98% of you said yes, they'll miss him, or regret it. Point 4, this is quite interesting to me, and I've been following it the last couple weeks, writing about it in the South Florida Tribune. Here are your Florida Panthers departures. Did we really get into this in our last episode?
No, because there wasn't as many.
Brandon Montour's gone to Seattle. Josh Mahura followed him. Ryan Longberg's gone to the Calgary Flames. Oliver Ekman-Larsson to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Anthony Stolarz to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Steven Lentzos too. Nick Cousins to the Ottawa Senators. That's now 7 guys. That's a third of your dressing room. And I don't even feel like the Panthers are that concerned about it. Or should be.
If you think about the moves that the Panthers have made in the previous 2 off seasons, they might have been kind of shocking, but they still managed to figure it out. They lost like 7 guys. I think the biggest thing for them is going to be losing a couple of key defensemen. That's going to be but they're obviously doing this for a reason. They've got a plan or something to get somebody, but when you lose, like, Montour is such a solid defenseman, and when you lose like Ekman-Larsson and even guys like Stolarz, guys that make a little bit of a difference, there's going to be a replacement. I don't think they should be worried. They're obviously doing this for a reason.
I think it's pretty clear, but maybe it's not clear to those. I'm pretty sure you get it. Bill Zito's sitting there going, as long as we have our Tkachuk, our Barkov, our Reinhart, our Bobrovsky, our Ekblad, everything, they're the rock, they're the core, as they say in sports. Everybody else are like bit pieces. They're replaceable, basically. Fair?
Sure.
That must be the way they're looking at it.
It probably is, but I think it's a little bit more detailed in that from a Bill Zito standpoint.
Sure
he knows what he's doing, right? It's like you're not going to let 2 pretty decent defensemen go and not have anybody to fix the issue, and, guys like Lomberg, who cares? He's not making a dent on any roster. Sorry, but he's not.
It's kind of sad to say that, though, because I love him, too. And he's clearly a good guy, but he didn't play in a lot of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Paul Maurice saying he was sick in the Tampa series, took him a long time to get over it. And they did insert him later on in what series was it? I want to say the Boston series. For sure the Stanley Cup final, but I guess he just didn't mean that much. That's hard. Again, realization.
Sure, but again, it's a business. You can be a fan favorite till the cows come home, but if there's not room, and again, freeing up a guy like that, not a ton of cap space, but it's a little bit here and there.
Well, and he went for $2 million per season for 2 years to Calgary, $4 million total. Can't blame him.
You know what? He will be a great addition in Calgary. Honestly, the fans like that type of a player there. He is going to be a great player in Calgary. I had to eat my words because I was one of the many people that thought Jonathan Huberdeau was going to be a great addition to Calgary. But Mackenzie Weegar sure is. And it's, Mackenzie Weegar's understated. And one of our friends works for the Flames, and he's like, man, Mackenzie Weegar is an incredible hockey player. 100%.
I'm adding one in here, unscheduled point. Jonathan Huberdeau telling, I don't know who, some outlet, that it hurt to watch the Panthers raise the Stanley Cup, and he got flamed, pardon the pun for that. I'm like, what do you expect him to say? He's just being honest. Of course it would hurt.
Why wouldn't it? Wasn't his choice.
Right, he can't say anything without getting flamed by somebody, right?
Not up there. If he said that down here, nobody would care. Right? But in Canada, you have to be so careful what you say. And a guy like Jonathan Huberdeau, who, let's be honest, in all intents and purposes, is an absolute disappointment for the Calgary Flames. He, in my opinion, he should have been more productive of a player in this trade than Matthew Tkachuk. He has the ability, he has the talent. It just didn't click. So having a guy like Lomberg they're going to love him in Calgary. Love him. But yeah, they're going to scorch him. But Lomberg's not going to get scorched because he plays hard every day.
Yeah, and they'll both probably end up with the same amount of points.
Let's put it out there right now. Who gets more points, Huberdeau or Lomberg?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll know Lomberg was out there. He's going to be running guys through the boards. But there's been a lot of games for the Flames that I've had to go back and look at the score sheet and go, did Huberdeau play?
Yeah, it's a little more, it's so much more intense up there when those teams play and when they're playing, and it's a different travel schedule. And I think Lomberg thrives on intensity, and he's going to love it there, because if Calgary plays Edmonton or they play Vancouver, it's an all-out war every single game, and that is right what that guy is cut out for. Why do you think he played in the Stanley Cup final and barely any of the other games?
Right. Joshua Burrs writes in and he says, fire up Florida? The insight on that is that's the name of our podcast that we do Monday nights. This week we're doing it Wednesday nights with the South Florida Tribune. Scott Morganroth, Candy Ebling, George Eichhorn, and me every Monday night at 7:30 to 7:45 on YouTube Live. Fired Up Florida is the name of it, and Joshua is like hardcore Panthers fan. So I appreciate you, Joshua, for coming over here and following us at Cats and Bolts as well. But yeah, Fired Up Florida. We're doing a special episode tonight. Is I'm going to be at a Stanley Cup party, so watch our social media for video of that. Kevas Tim, that's the account. What?
It's like if you just read it phonetically.
Kevas Tim?
Kevas
Tim?
I don't know. I don't even know how it's spelled.
Tim Kim says, well, I would have thought this would be obvious, but maybe not, because she thinks Tampa's going to make the playoffs, so Kevas Tim says, who will have the better record, Florida or Tampa Bay? I think you all know how I feel.
Well, I would hope it's Florida.
It better be Florida.
But I never know.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
You do never know. That's why they play the games. But Florida's got the belt now, and they've been waiting a long time to get it. Stacy writes in, and I'm like, Stacy says, says, thoughts on the Panthers' new center ice logo? I feel like I don't really want to touch that. I understand I read that the person that tweeted the photo got fired by the Panthers they were going to do a splashy unveiling. What I saw was that it was supposed to be a special commemorative for the Stanley Cup, but I didn't really see in the logo anything about the Stanley Cup, unless I'm blind, which my eyesight is going. I don't really want to touch it. Center ice logos are center ice logos. I don't get that fired up about them.
I don't understand how anybody could give two shits about the start of August what the center ice logo looks like here. It's August. People forget there's a team here and they just won the Stanley Cup. And now some kid's getting crucified for posting a photo. Dude, I don't know. And this is not against Stacy. It's a great question. I didn't see it. No, it's a great question.
Yeah. Great question. No doubt.
I just don't understand what is like. I've never, in being a hockey fan for 45 years and an actual hockey fan, watching however many home openers, I've never anybody be like, whoa, look at the center ice logo. Everybody get on Twitter and check out the center ice logo. I've never seen it be a thing.
It's just the flow of what people are into. Like, for instance, 2 summers ago when I was in Calgary doing my other talk show from a casino, this probably won't surprise you. I can just hear the scorn coming from you next. But in Calgary, they had coverage of the ice, them painting the ice at the Saddle Dome. Wah, wah, wah. What else do they have to get excited about?
Well, they always put like, okay, they're putting the ice in.
Right,
like,
that was the
it's
coverage.
Like, they don't. It's just.
So it's not like it's just here they're excited about the center ice logo. It's just I don't really get into it. Andy Slater, who hosts a talk show on Fox Sports 640 South Florida out of West Palm, did report that the person that tweeted that photo got fired. And to me, it's like, would a reprimand not do? Even a harsh reprimand? Even a suspension not do? Let alone firing somebody?
Here we go. Now we're freaking God's gift to the NHL, the Florida Panthers. Like, come on. Stop big timing people. Get off your high horse and chill out.
I thought it was a little harsh.
It's it's ridiculous. Like some kid loses his job over that. It's not like it was pornographic or something inappropriate. Yes, if it's in his contract that says you will be terminated if you post anything without consent, that's different. Maybe it was. I don't know. But like, seriously?
Who knows? I would say that's unlikely that it's in the
exactly.
contract. Kay Selvig writes in and says, any ideas if the Cup is going to make a tour? Perhaps Orlando for the exhibition game. That is, I think, September 25th, Panthers and Lightning meeting in Orlando. I don't know. Ask the team. I wish I had that information for you, but I don't know. There's been a lot of Cup parties going around, but they're all private events. I have not. There was, only because Dmitry Kulikov had the Cup at the War Memorial. All the fans were invited down. I saw a lot of fan photos from that, but I haven't heard anything with regards to a tour.
Yeah, I don't think they usually do that late because you have to remember that Phil Pritchard has to babysit that thing, and he's traveling the whole summer with the Cup anyway. I don't ever remember them being like, hey, we're going to take the Cup here just because it's too much for the carrier.
So we haven't heard, but I would suggest asking the team. Alec writes in. You know, Alec, he writes all the time. Where's Buray's question, by the way? Buray, 1096. He's all over us usually. He must still be.
Oh, boy. Better check on his welfare.
Maybe a shark got him in the summer. Alex says, will you be going to the rookie showcase in Fort Myers? I wish that it was in Estero again, Fort Myers area, but it ain't. It's in Nashville, September 13th to the 16th. Which, by the way, so we're not, unless you want to go to Nashville, which I know you do, but not that soon, I don't think.
That's a little tight. But yeah, we went last year. I don't know if you remember us talking about it, but we went last year over to Estero. What a great time that was. There was fans from all over the place. You get to see all the rookies play. You get to, the general managers are there. It was
so much fun.
Oh, it was so much fun.
I'll tell you a story because it's a podcast. It ain't ESPN. I was walking down the press box hallway with Barry Trotz, the GM of the Predators. You know this story. And he accidentally went into the women's bathroom and literally turned. He was like, whoa, turn around. And I'm like, you don't want to do that? And he goes, good way to meet women, though. He's funny. He
was flipping pierogies all summer in Manitoba. That's what we do.
Tampa Bay Lightning announcing their rookie showcase roster. By the way, so here's some of the names for the Bolts fans that have tuned in. Connor Geekie, who us Western Hockey League fans know well. Jaden Dureau.
Yeah, another beauty.
I've only known him since he's about 6. And he's from the Queen City of Regina, Saskatchewan. Good friends with his dad, Ryan. Milo Rollins, Lukas Zaykovsky, Nico Huhtinen, Max Groshov, Dylan Duke, Lucas Edmonds, Tristan Allard, the guy that you and I thought was the best player in the tourney last year, Ethan Gauthier.
Yes.
He would have won for the whole tournament, I would say. He was the best player.
He was the strongest player. We watched all 4 teams play, and he was definitely the best player.
Son of former Phoenix Coyote, Denis Gauthier. Also, Ethan Hay and Gabriel Zertek. Defenseman Jace Weir, Tyson Feist, Scott Walford, Jan Golachik, Dylan Gill, Max Crozier, Roman Schmidt, Emil Lilleberg. And the goalies, Harrison Menahan and Ryan Fanti.
And keep in mind, there's players that are there that are older, too. Just because they've never played in the NHL, they still qualify for the rookie tournament. I think there was guys like 25 years old there last year, I remember seeing. So it's always entertaining.
It'll be fun, but it'll be in Nashville, so we won't be there. Got the rookie rosters. Yeah, we still got some good time here. We've gone through our questions, although there was... Somebody wrote in, I didn't write the name down, about the Panthers' defense losing Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Brandon Montour. Let's just remember this. People were very up in arms last year, including Bill Lindsay. And up in arms might be an exaggeration, but Radko Gudas was gone. Mark Stahl was gone. They lost 3 or 4 guys last year at this time. Mm-hmm. And Billy was like, it's going to take probably till December 1 to get that sorted out.
Plus, also, at the start of last year, Montour was injured. Somebody else was injured too, and it was
Ekblad.
It was like, okay, what are we gonna do here? So they figured it out. That's why, going back to what I was saying earlier about how they have a plan. There's obviously a plan in place. They're not just gonna go, well, it's September 27th and we're still missing 2 defensemen. It's not the way it goes.
That reminds me. Well, with so much fun about this show, and I think she loves it more than I do. This aspect. I went back and was looking at some old clips, the Ed Jovanovski show, and we got to get him on right away, Jovo. All those Panthers people, hockey people coming into this program. Dale Talon, Doug McLean, Peter Worrell, Bill Lindsay. Who am I missing?
Jeff
Jovo,
Chikrin.
Jeff Chikrin a couple of times. And I'm telling people, listen, I didn't even think I told you this because I was in Canada this summer. She was not. She stayed here. People are like, you got those guys? They couldn't believe it.
Well, people, this is to clarify, and I don't even know this story,
No,
but
you
I'm
don't.
guessing
I've never
it was,
told you.
It was people in Canada that would be shocked because up there, it's just not like that. You don't just randomly have like, oh, Wayne Gretzky's in town. Cool. You want to come on our podcast? You played in Edmonton and you're here visiting. Nah, that is not the way it works up there.
No.
It's not that they big time. It's just a completely different ball game.
Gretzky is rolling around Edmonton with security 24/7.
Yeah. So
Right? I don't think he's doing that here.
But the people here, every one of those guys that we have on here is so grateful that we're doing this, and they're just happy to talk hockey. They're like, you just can't really talk hockey anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, and to all the other podcasts out there, if they don't know about them, they're not listening, right? So they didn't even know about us until we were fortunate enough to have Bill help us out and be able to reach out to some people.
Yeah.
So that's how it gets started.
Well, I don't know. They were all great. But to be honest, my hockey friends in Canada say the best episode we did last year was Dale Talon.
Dale Talon was my favorite.
this-
He's just
to this day.
because of that episode. That man puts me in stitches every single time I see him because he's always saying something off the cuff.
Tell him the story about the game on Sunday when he was like, we can't play on Sunday.
Oh, he tried to, he was trying to give everybody the business about how he's like, I'm not going to be here. I'm like, why not? He's like, I got church. You go to church? No. Like and that's one of the ones I could tell on here. There's some other ones I wouldn't.
What was the one he said, don't ask me about cinnamon, or you don't know what cinnamon does to me?
Oh, I made a sourdough loaf with cinnamon and brown sugar, and I gave some to the guys that work up in the box there. And I was like, oh, Dale, I didn't know you were coming, or I would have brought you some. I made a cinnamon sugar sourdough loaf. He's like, you don't know what cinnamon does to me. And I'm like,
we didn't ask what it was.
Like, I'm literally sitting there like this. What do I was speechless, people. I was like, okay.
Feel like I don't want to know. Maybe he just puts him to sleep. I don't know.
I don't think that's what we were getting at that point.
But they said that was the best one. A lot of people really like the Doug McLean interview. And by the way, now retired is Jeff Rimmer. So he is offered, sorry that I've been crying here laughing so hard, but Jeff Rimmer has offered to come in here and co-host. So watch your P's and Q's because you'll be overboard fast if Jeff's available.
You'll be overboard fast. The people don't want to see you. They want to see me and Jeff or me and you. You're
okay. So like I say, we love them all. Everyone was good. And I will say this, Jovo, Benny can attest. Jovo says, I hadn't met him yet, other than a couple times in the press box. And he's like, I only got 15 minutes. He comes and does 30 minutes, and then we had, Ed, you got to leave.
Yeah. We're like, we know you got to go. No, I'm good.
Yeah, he's like, I'm good.
He was just having a great time. And, you know, we had never met him before that. When he came in, now I see him at the rink all the time. He gives me a big hug, introduced me to his son. Like, just a good person. But when you first meet Jovo, he's not this, like, dynamic, outgoing personality. I'm like, what? Oh, my God. Like, this is Ed Jovanovski, people. You don't understand.
Pretty reserved.
He played for the Kamloops, and like the World Juniors. Like, this is Ed Jovanovski, for God's sake. And then meeting him was just like very chill, very relaxed.
Normal guy.
Yeah, just.
Speaking of normal guys, we should talk about Johnny Goodro. I led off my column in the South Florida Tribune with this. NHL news in the last week begins and ends with the death of Johnny Goodro and his brother Matthew last Thursday out cycling on the side of the road in Old Township, New Jersey, their basically hometown, and a suspected drunk driver. Like, I understand this. The police are very careful with what they release. It doesn't matter. Johnny and Matthew were hit on the side of the road, pronounced dead at the scene. Their sister Katie's wedding was to be the next day, and they were to be groomsmen in it. So I don't know. I don't want to end this on a dark note, but that's what we have. That's the news in the NHL right now. There's been tributes not only across from all the teams in the NHL. The Yankees have done one at their game. I think the Eagles are going to do one because that was his team. He was an Eagles fan. Every NHL arena will do it. I've seen junior hockey teams that are in camp right now having moments of silence in their rink at the start of training camp and intra-squad games for Johnny Goodro. Like, I wasn't down here for the Humboldt tragedy, but this has that kind of feel from 2018.
Yeah, listen, we will end on a funny story because we have a funny flame story from the Theen Flurry golf tournament that we will end on.
Yeah, this will get you laughing.
Okay. Johnny Goodro obviously played for the enemy, never could stand him as a player. Rod emailed me, and I woke up in the morning and read an email that said, from Rod, I'm sure you heard about Johnny Goodro. It sure puts life into perspective. And I was like, what? I opened up my phone, and at the time it hadn't been confirmed, and I just literally burst into tears. This is just so much bigger than the sport, than whatever. This is someone's child. They're talking about, oh, these guys were both married, they have kids. This was someone's children. A mother lost 2 of her children because somebody was reckless. And both of us are sober, and Rod's a sober coach, and we preach, all that kind of stuff. And you do you with this, but don't get behind the wheel. And I know everybody knows that, but they still do it. And it's just the tragedy. And our friend who works for the Flames, it was just so difficult for him. You can't process something like that. He played there for 8 years, and this is like your friend and your child and your coworker and all that kind of stuff. And how do you process that? It takes so much time. And we were watching football. Edmonton and Calgary were playing on Labor Day, and they did a tribute because that's how beloved Johnny Goodro was in Calgary. We love to hate him because he was a Flame. But at the end of the day, it's probably the saddest hockey thing I've heard since the Humboldt tragedy. And I feel awful for everybody involved.
Well said. And I don't have anything to add to that. I was just sending Ben a photo. Check your phone, Benny. So this is the story Sarina was talking about. Nice work, babe, on pulling this one out.
I didn't want to forget because I was thinking about the Flames and we got some funny stuff.
Theen Flurry played 1,100 NHL games, scored 1,100 NHL points. He's a very close friend of mine. He won a Stanley Cup, an Olympic gold medal for Canada, a World Junior Hockey Championship for Canada. If there was ever a Hall of Famer, it's Theen Flurry. He was sexually abused by his junior hockey coach, Graham James, who has since gone to jail for that. And Theo led that movement to get him investigated, charged, and prosecuted and sent away. So Theo, actually, she talks about me being a sober coach. Theo and I went to the same coaching academy to get our certification. So do you have the photo, Ben? So to this, if you don't, that's fine. Yeah. You can talk. So I'm going to show you a photo from the golf tournament that he puts on every August. It's for the Breaking Free Foundation, which is his. So that's Theo on the right. Sarina's laughing already. Colin Patterson on the left. And that ugly guy in the middle's me. But Theron's on the right. All 5'6" of him. Okay? 1,100 games in the NHL, 1,100 points. Just to give you an idea. So he is the auctioneer at his own golf tournament, auctioneering off that other guy, Colin Patterson's jersey from the 1989 Stanley Cup Flames. Their one and only Stanley Cup, okay? That needs to be pointed out. This woman is in the front row. Her. Look at you. So as Theron, they just met that day for the first time. As Theron is auctioning off this jersey, he's holding it up and he goes, this jersey has a patch on it from the 1989 Stanley Cup Final. These are very rare. And she says in front of the whole crowd, especially here. Especially here. Yeah, they are hard to find here. In Calgary. Yeah, especially here. Half the room booed, half the room cheered. There's a lot of Oilers fans in the room. And anyways, here's the thing. She met her match in Theo. He met his match in her because he shot back and said, how many first overall draft picks do you have to lose in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final? And all the Flames fans got behind that. It was a real Edmonton thing. Florida was looped in, Calgary. So her and Theron are lipping each other off in the golf tournament. I'll tell you what. Classy. When it comes to Edmonton and Calgary, it wouldn't matter who beat Edmonton this year. They didn't care. They didn't care that Florida won. As Colin Patterson said to me,
I want to see the Oilers lose as much as I want to see the Flames win. And I said, that's funny. I say that all the time. I hate the Flames as much as I love the Oilers. He's like, I get it. I agree. It's just the way it is. So Theo, after, this is also kind of a funny story too. Theo said, I go, yeah, it was something about Rod or whatever. And he's like, oh man, Rod's a great guy. And he goes, of course he's trying to butter me up. He's like, I don't know how he got a girl like you. And I was like, Theo, let me tell you something.
Starting to like you more. Yeah,
I'm starting to like you more and more every year.
Heard all about it.
At first, it was like, I was telling them. I wasn't telling you.
I'm just listening.
You know how
Continue.
many things I've heard a million times on here?
Continue.
But thank you for ruining the story. It's over.
Okay. No.
Thanks.
Finish
No,
up.
that was literally it.
I know it was. That's why I was chiming in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
But Colin pulled me aside at the golf tournament and was like, thank you for beating Edmonton. And I'm like, bro, I didn't do anything. It was the Florida Panthers. He's like, I'm just so happy they lost. You know the way that he talks.
Yeah, he's just so like he doesn't care who would have been.
Yeah, we got less than 2 minutes here, but that's the thing. I think it's cute that we do this Florida Tampa show. I've had people say, how could you do a show on both teams? I think a Flames Oilers show would be great, but it doesn't exist because they hate each other that much. This works because they don't hate each other like those guys up there in Alberta do.
There is no chance that even if I wanted to do a podcast in the Battle of Alberta, that I would sit in front of a Flames logo. I would have to be dead before that. That's why it doesn't happen. It doesn't.
Yeah. So there you go. Nice work, Benny. Anything you'd like to chime in? Nice to be back.
I was going to say, nice to have you guys back in the studio. Love
Yeah.
you guys having you here. Love the arguments. I love it.
We will all go and cool off after this. Enjoy, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week, Ben, on Cats and Bolts.